Welcome to Presente, a space and community that vibes on being in the moment, something we are relearning how to do in a fast-moving world.
We are excited to be part of a growing movement that talks about topics that we feel haven't been talked about in our Latin culture and womanhood.
Be present with us. Take a pause and break down societal norms.
Redefine the meaning of existing. Welcome to Presente, the podcast.
Spiritual awakening. Are you living or just existing? Today's topic, we discuss spiritual awakening, a fascinating topic that we're excited to present. Spiritual awakening comes to us often without even noticing, or perhaps recognizing this awakening and trying to interpret it just to make sense of it. Tune in as we navigate through this conversation, dive deeper with us, and share your experiences. This topic was very much on our list. Jissela and I are very fascinated by spiritual awakening and everything that comes with it. I'm glad we chose this, Jissela.
I'm excited because I feel like it's something worth exploring. It's a topic that I don't know how many people know about it, but I'm glad we are introducing it here on Presente. Waking up from the matrix slumber, breaking the fourth wall, breaking the loop. It seems like our past generations were accepting of repeating cycles or letting things just simply be, until one day the present generation woke up and questioned it all. I'm excited about this topic because I don't feel like it's something we touch up much on with our Latin community. Let us be open to awakenings and how they can support our journey ahead. Let's be reminded that the topics here are subjective. There are no coincidences. Everything means something. What is spiritual awakening? Hello, everybody, and welcome to Presente. Again, today's topic is about spiritual awakening, and let's dive deep into it by exploring what is spiritual awakening and the signs that you may feel. So, spiritual awakening, in a sense, is raising or your soul raising into consciousness and deep levels of awareness. It's when one's personal world begins to shift to try to align back to who you are meant to be, or to go through a journey to heal and bring healing, supporting the efforts to build collectively and working on a more equitable and harmonious society. There is something most of us probably experience, and I feel like it's a subject that is heavily talked about. I definitely hear a lot about the spiritual awakening on social media, hence why we are bringing it to Presente. And spiritual awakening is usually when you think of it, you usually think of signs of like peace and enlightenment, but actually spiritual awakening is like a roller coaster. It's reminding you or coming to you because suddenly you can't go back to how things used to be. It's like a rebirth to your life, a new chapter forming. It's like your soul wants to be released. It's like an out-of-body experience. Some people experience the rush of spiritual awakening by feeling rough, or they feel rough feelings or mood swings before that they can experience that light, or, again, being enlightened.
I can completely understand and pinpoint times in my life where you feel like a rebirth or your soul is speaking to you. I think that's one of the first steps in awareness of spiritual awakening. And that comes at various different points and times in our life. Sometimes it can just be for a split second. Sometimes it can last even longer than that, for hours and days at a time. It is different from person to person, experience from one to another. One of the first signs would be just realizing how you feel. So you definitely have to sort of be like in tune with yourself. And if you're not, then you may notice just some type of subtle shift, sometimes within yourself or even your surrounding. Spiritual awakening isn't always of an internal feeling, but it definitely is, I think, like a realization moment that you may see or feel within yourself or even your surrounding. Spiritual awakening, how it feels, the signs we receive, as we go through this journey of spiritual awakening, it is important to realize that it is different from person to person and given at any given time. There's not a specific time of day or moment in life where you may experience this. This can come to you at a young age, at an older age. There's really no telling. But what it is, one thing for certain is that you can be awakened, quote unquote, at any given point. Some of the ways you can realize your spiritual awakening is based on how you feel. There will be moments of feeling confused, sad, frustrated, anger, feeling out of place. Other things can, on the other side, would be feeling a sense of serenity and peace and calm, a stillness that can realign you with feelings awakened based off your evolution, meaning transitional periods in your life as you pivot from one moment or of your life to the next, any transformations you're going through, that can also bring upon some sense of spiritual awakening as you, quote unquote, go towards your calling. I think that spiritual awakening gives you a sense of reassurance within yourself when you're pushing through the ordinary and realizing like certain things don't serve you anymore, but others do. And that can be anything from your daily routine to the job you have. That's a sense of like feeling out of place because your soul or your mindset just really is tugging you to a different reality. Those are some of the ways that you may feel a spiritual awakening is coming about in a sense. And then it is really up to you to trust that and have faith in it and realizing, like, as we say here in presente, is being present and sort of just realizing those emotions that come with, the frustration, the anger. It's a transitional period, or it no longer serves you, just so that you do pursue what's more fulfilling. And I think that's something that with spiritual awakening, it's a sense of fulfillment overall, like that goal, that feeling of just feeling like accomplished, satisfied, happy, at peace. All those positive feelings, I guess, is what you should strive for. Positive vibes. When you vibe higher, you are in a sense of alignment within yourself, and that has everything to do with spiritual awakening. Just navigating and gearing yourself towards that, not going backwards. Like Jissela was saying, when you have this coat over you of spiritual awakening, it's you want to just keep going towards that, not backwards. I do think it's a feeling that causes plenty of different emotions, but the ultimate goal, the ultimate feeling should be to experience it from a very harmonious point within yourself. Definitely.
I agree with what you're saying. It definitely is the overall goal to achieve peace. It's wild what one feels before they start to feel like that, because the awakening is like it opens you in your most vulnerable sense, in your most emotional one, where we start to validate our past, our traumas, and we reflect back upon that, and we want to present ourselves in a higher, or not in a higher, in a light. But before we can get to the light, we have to kind of sit with our inner shadows to get to that point. And we will do a topic discussing shadow work later on in the podcast, because that's also another way to explore your deep sense of self, to be more aligned to who you are. We are humans, and we are most definitely not perfect, but when we realize and when we awaken, we can guide more to be our best selves, even with the imperfections that come behind it. And there's also other ways the universe speaks to you, the signs that the universe throws at you. So we just wanted to also quickly talk about some signs that you may see or dream about, etc. So some signs of spiritual awakening is lucid dreaming. We'll touch more upon that in a bit. Synchronicities, where you see repeating numbers, where you see animals just pop out of nowhere. Like, for example, sometimes I see red jays and blue jays appear out of nowhere, like ladybugs, butterflies, things of that nature. And you know something, I feel like this comes from a very ancestral lineage. If we think about, you know, dates before colonization happened, our ancestors were very much in tune with nature and, you know, the abundance and peace that everything comes in naturally in its natural form. So it's all very like interesting how in time it modernizes. You also might experience signs of deja vu. Some of you may be geared or tuned in with tarot cards, which is another form of spiritual communication. We'll mention one of the YouTubers that actually spoke about this a little later. Sometimes even astrology and your birth chart can play into, you know, your signs of directing you towards your guiding path. Totems, and little objects of that nature, crystals as well. All of these signs are there to help support your spiritual awakening journey.
Oh, definitely. I love how we can identify with the signs. I think that that's one of the most easier ways to recognize spiritual awakening. I love receiving the signs,
Yes.
whether through numbers or animals. I know you mentioned butterflies. We love seeing butterflies appear, and the numbers, for instance, 1111. 333. There's a lot of meaning associated with numerology. I highly recommend, if you want to know more about that, to always look into it. A quick Google search doesn't hurt, and that definitely helps answer any questions when it comes to seeing signs like this. I do want to also add that astrology, and back to our ancestors and how they navigated through life, everything was about nature. It was their job to, know so much about nature, because through nature and the seasons, it's pretty much how we were able to live and survive. Understanding astrology, day to night, difference in temperatures and so forth, it is what helped us pretty much just live through day by day. I think astrology is a big one. Not that I know everything about it, but the signs and the different stars, how they come together is huge. I know that's also up for another topic that we will have further on throughout the podcast. And I wanted to add to the signs in terms of scripture in the Bible. There's many times where just a quick devotional helps, whether it's at the start of your day or at any given point of the day. Just reading a devotional. Sometimes you can just flip through a page in the Bible and read a quick scripture and it resonates. And there's so many other ways of signs, but the signs are there because one thing that we're sort of programmed is to believe through seeing. And ultimately, yes, that helps, but so does by faith. I think that feeling, that vibration you hold within is what outwardly then you see being expressed back to you. And that's what we mean by signs, because whatever you may be feeling or thinking, definitely thinking has a big part of this, is what then carries on over to the signs that we receive from the universe. And all of that ties into this higher power of being spiritually awakened. It's all relative. And one of my favorite quotes, and I'm not sure who can I quote, but is there are no coincidences. Everything means something. And I think that when you really, read between the lines and in hindsight, it's all there for us to really value and take back as part of this spiritual awakening happening within us and trying to be aligned. Because once again, the ultimate goal is living in our purpose, being and doing what fulfills us and makes us happy. And that's, I think, the whole of being spiritually awakened. It's what you prefer, what you choose, not the next person, but more so just yourself.
Why does spiritual awakening happen?
To sort of help shape your spiritual awakening experience, I do recommend for you to do the things that you love, that you find joy and comfort in, bringing it sometimes even way back to your childhood. They say, don't grow up, it's a trap, but it's really because as a child, there are no cares or worries. There are no structures of having to be at work just to make a living. Being a child really brings upon, this whole magical and fearless and freedom of life, and little do we know it because we're kids. I recall my dad at a very young age was always my hype man. And he would, always come out and let me know, like this introduction. He would say, presenting Jennifer Nuñez. And I love to sing, but I was always very scared to sing. It was more like a private thing. And, coming into this podcast, part of the reason why I decided to take this on, not only with such a wonderful co-host who made that decision easier for me, was because as I grew up and, did the whole school thing, did the whole corporate thing, just identifying moments in my life where I would be called to being, the per se, I guess, spokesperson, the host in smaller settings of school, work. And I actually left 8 years of banking to pursue a career as a reporter. And boy, was that really hard to do, going back to school for my master's. But it was something that, once again, it was just me trying to follow that purpose of something I enjoy doing. Not necessarily a reporter, but having this platform and being able to talk about topics that we find endearing and enlightening, and things that we also want to learn and teach ourselves and pay it forward to others. Spiritual awakening happens to be one of them because, hey, we all possess something beautiful. There is a light within us that we ought to shine. And when we do that, you really find fulfillment. There's going to be days where it doesn't seem like it. It might feel like work in itself. The fruits of your labor are a beautiful thing when you actually go through with it, for sure.
Yeah, I agree with that. There's definitely times in our lives where, yes, we go through our day to day. Never lose sight of what you were gifted, because it's gonna come knocking at you, or it's gonna your soul is gonna come knocking to your soul in a way like, hey, listen to me, you have this talent here lying dormant. I want you to fulfill it. In the book The Alchemist, it says something in there about how, when we follow the structures society placed on us, we kind of like lose sight of the signs and the feelings. But when you do follow your personal legend, you are more in tune with the signs and the feelings. Your soul is guiding you. And I think that's beautiful. If I'm not saying quit your 9 to 5 job, but if you have something else in you that you feel you want to demonstrate to the world, or even if it takes you time, because I understand starting a new chapter is scary, definitely go try, go, write that email, write the first page of your first book, take a little time, even if it's 10 minutes, 15 minutes a day, to pursue your inner soul. Go for it. So never lose sight of your unique self. We're all beautiful imprints of the stars. We are stars. Jennifer and I were talking about that. She mentioned that we are placements in the sky. We are all really good at something. Some of us might be good communicators. Some of us are really good at empathizing. Some of us are really great at, being supportive, being leaders, being, artistically talented, discovering new things that can help, society, for science purposes. Never lose sight of, your inner self and, what your soul would like you to reach.
It's so cool because there's Adrienne Bailon. She was one of the co-hosts on The Real, and watched something that she said, and it had something to do with her growing up, her upbringing. And she would say how, she grew up in Manhattan on the Lower East Side, and her friends would come over to her house, and one of the things she loved to do and play was the subtitles on the television. And she would
I saw
tell
that
her,
too.
yeah, it was so cute. And like I was like, yeah, someone who gets me. But she mentioned how growing up she would watch TV, have a friend over, and one of the things she liked doing was, okay, let's play. You read, you be this person and I'll be the other person, but to read the subtitles. And her friends, they weren't into that, but she was. And little did she realize, like, obviously she's had a tremendous career in acting and singing and being a host, and the list goes on, an entrepreneur. That was so touching because where she is now, and little did she know, being a kid, one of the things was her, being a kid and just enjoying the subtitles on the television screen. And where she is now, a point in her life, is she's a host amongst so many other things, and it's helped her. It's paved the way for her. And it's just a reminder of, it can be the smallest little thing that you find joy in that just brings up this huge, tremendous door of opportunity and fulfillment. Don't let it go over your head. Don't let someone else's dream, become yours and you working towards that person's dream. But really just, have a moment of deciphering through what it is that brings you joy and comfort, because it leads to such a bigger picture. And I just think that people ought to, you know be aware of that. It's a gift to yourself, and that gift to yourself becomes a gift to others. When you really look at the bigger picture about things, spiritual awakening is a big deal, and we highly recommend that you take the time out to just be present into
Mm.
what that spiritual awakening is to you. We hope that through this podcast, as well as we continue through episode, but we want to hear from you all. We want to hear what are some of your experiences or some of the questions that arise from this topic or any of our topics. We want to open spiritual awakening up to our listeners, because we definitely want to know, what's going on your end. So please chime in with us as well through our social media platforms on Instagram, on TikTok, here on YouTube as well, where you can share your experiences or any questions that you may have in regards to spiritual awakening. We look forward to hearing it from you.
Yes, please share any moments of your life you felt awakened. We would love to hear from you. Maybe we could even share it in our stories on Instagram, of course, if allowed to. Yeah, this is something we might be connected with. We might be even opening up to others that are not sure what it's called, but maybe we shed a little bit of light for you on the topic today and its meaning, its signs, its feelings. We would love to hear, and thank you for listening to Presente episode 3.
Our personal experiences.
We couldn't just bring up the topic of spiritual awakening without having to share some experiences of our own, just to give you a glimpse of our life as well and this topic in itself. And Gisela has known me for quite some time, and I've had many spiritual awakenings. It's not just a one time done deal, it's a game changer. It really is. And it comes differently to each and every one of us at many different points in times. And I've had so many that I can go on and on, but one of the ones that I actually want to bring up is just kind of realizing a spiritual awakening at a very young age. And I must have been about 13. I believe I had just turned 14 years old. And it was a summertime in July. I am a July baby, so it was definitely shortly after my birthday. And my family and I, we were out on a family outing. We had dinner, which was really nice. It wasn't always that we were able to come together. I This was the year that I also had my new little brother. He was only a few months old, roughly maybe 6 months or so, 5, 6 months old. And we were all out at a family outing on one July summer night. And after dinner, we were gonna go catch a movie. And it must have been like a group of us. Like my mom, my siblings, my grandmother was there, and I specifically remember leaving the restaurant we were at, and I had my little brother in the stroller, and I was the one pushing him. And this breeze, like this breeze, mind you, it's summer night, and this breeze came over me, and I literally blurted out, something bad is going to happen. And it sucks because here we were all together having a wonderful dinner. The summertime is one of my favorite times of the year. And little did I know that afterwards that we had dinner, now we're on our way to the movies, and my grandmother decides to leave with my brother. Again, he was only a few months old. It was a little too late for him to be out. So my grandmother says, "You guys go to the movies. I'm just going to take the baby back with me home." And at the time, yes, cell phones were out. But when my grandmother got home, the phone was ringing nonstop and voicemail after voicemail was left. And we had just gotten news that my uncle in the Dominican Republic had passed away from a terrible
Mm.
accident by a drunk driver. Here we were
Wow.
at the movie theaters. My grandma then showed up, and it just completely just changed everyone's mood. And one thing was my sister and others were just like, "Oh my God, Jennifer kind of mentioned it." And again, although I didn't know the details to how the end of the night would be, I would have
Mm-hmm.
thought my uncle was going to pass away. He was so young as well, probably like in his 40s. And
Wow.
it was just devastating. A person that had so much to live for with such an amazing soul and personality. Like, love my uncle. It was just devastating. It was sad. And it was also very alarming to me to know that at such a young age, I just felt something like a spirit, in a sense. But this breeze was like a very like a chill that just came over me. It just allowed me to blurt that out, where I just knew something was bound to happen that night. I didn't know what it was. Again, here we are thousands and thousands miles apart from my
Mm-hmm.
family back home in the Dominican Republic, but it was just a very strange feeling, especially coming off a very nice evening spent all together. And
Wow.
that's when I realized, looking back at it, as far as I can remember, is probably the beginning of time in which I can recall feeling sort of emotions to tie in to what I can now, as an adult say, hey, that was a spiritual awakening. That was something that was literally out of my hand, unplanned, but something came over me to sort of just inform the others, like, hey, something's gonna happen. I don't know what it is, but I felt it, and I shared that. So that was probably like the early times, and as I went about, growing up over the years, dreams have been very telling and vivid, in which I'll dream something, and then in the next, 24 hours or within that week or so, it sort of just becomes a reality, which is then why I believe that, in a sense, dreams are like the trailer to our real life, sort of like that trailer right before you actually see a movie in full format. You get a glimpse of, okay, what is this movie about? And dreams,
Mm-hmm.
in my opinion, and the experiences that I have had, is sort of like the trailer to what's yet to come.
Right.
Deja vus are also part of it, but I would say the dreams, along with, as far as I can remember, way back when, that's when I started to be spiritually awakened.
Wow, that is very deep. Thank you for sharing that story. I'm sorry about your uncle. Spiritual awakenings just come out of nowhere. You just get a feeling, or like something inside you just says that, something is gonna be different. I've definitely had moments like that too. With friendships, feeling changes happening along the way, like new chapters, whether bad or good, opening or coming. Dreams as well, very very vivid dreams. Usually, sometimes my dreams, I don't know why, they like more on the darker end of stuff. Don't know why. Like Jennifer was saying, yes, spiritual awakenings, yes, they can happen at any, given point or time. It's not a one time, done deal. I want to say, when I was a child, I think I was probably 6 or 7 years old. I feel like I might have had my first spiritual awakening. It was weird, and all I remember is feeling overwhelmed, and I was crying, and my parents were like, "What's the matter? What happened? Are you okay?" And I was just simply looking at baby photos, when I was a newborn, when I was like 1, 2, 3 years old. And I'm not sure why, but knowing as a child, that the next, phase of life is, a teenager, adulthood, kind of like felt like a prison to me, as a kid. Like, not that I want to be like life is a prison, but it's just the again, that cycle of just, doing, what you can to, survive. It felt like prison. So I just started to cry. And I also felt empathy for adults when I was just 6 years old. I think it's when I started to feel some empathy, because I always saw like the adults, at least in my life, kind of like doing loops and not really able to explore like their personal, dreams, and going after, those dreams. And then I felt it again in my early 20s. I want to say I was at an internship. I'm not going to say the name of the internship, but I was at an internship. I remember just feeling like, is this what, you know, what what life is to look forward to? Like, I saw everybody like mechanically working, in their cubicles. And I asked myself a question. I'm like, seeing that kind of scared me. I don't know. It's just something I'm like, is that the path I want? And, the internship that I was at was a corporate internship. It was like people climbing up the ladder, people, rushing and just, doing their everyday thing over and over. And I asked myself, is that really something, you want to do? And I remember like having to hide in the bathroom sometimes because I felt very overwhelmed. When I was a kid, I never saw my parents stop working hard. because I know why they did it. It was to give us, their kids a better life. But I always thought about, my parents following their own personal paths or their own personal dreams. Like my dad told me, before he came to the US and he was in the army, he said he wanted to be a soccer player. My dad had the talent to be a soccer player. He practiced every day when he was in Peru. But my grandfather, would not hear of it because, again, the generation is, go to school, make something of yourself, pick something practical. But it's always that fear of never following your true dream. And my dad left Peru because he was in search of maybe not becoming a soccer player, but definitely of something different. And then other forms of breaking or trying to break these loops in the societal structure that we live in, at least for me personally, was through creativity. Not really wanting to be part of the cubicles, not settling for the same old thing, but I wanted to redefine my version of alignment, my version of success, my own success story. Freedom plays a very big role in that. It's just a matter of navigating how to obtain it in a way that is, true to who you are. Some people don't want to break, from or break out from being comfortable to something that is of discomfort. Because sometimes when we sit in discomfort, it's where we really might see, things start to grow or bloom in a different kind of way, even though, it takes time for it to get there. There's this one quote by some books we'll recommend later on in the podcast. The book, The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. And one of the quotes that Jennifer actually shared with me was, to realize one's destiny is a person's only obligation. And that is another form, I feel like, of the universe, sending these messages through books, through seeing how other people were able to, obtain their own version of success. And I think that's really great that, we have people that we look up to inspire us to, follow our own personal legends. Like they explain in the book, The Alchemist. I freaking love that book. I'm actually rereading it now while I work out.
This is a really, really good book. Great book. Highly recommend.
Yes. There's also, following, your personal legend, seeing the synchronicities of the universe. Again, the signs, the feelings inwardly. Another book that also really opened my eyes was the book Eat, Pray, Love by Elizabeth Gilbert, who goes through her own spiritual breaking where she, got a divorce. She was working for a magazine publication, in a corporate, society, but she realized that she wanted her true dream was to be a writer. She has always written books. Another book that I really love from her is called Big Magic, where she talks about how you should give yourself permission to be, the person that you want to be without the accolades of society telling you, oh, you are this person because of this paper, because of this thing. No, you just give yourself the permission to be. In her first book, Eat, Pray, Love, she goes through a fulfilling travel experience where she goes to Italy, to Bali for a year and really discovers who she is without, the pressure of the work life behind her. Like I feel like I can relate to this journey that she took. And it has definitely opened up avenues for exploring different cultures and going to different places in my own journey. I felt like I needed to incorporate more of that in my life, which is why I took on more flexible role rather than one, where I was more behind a cube. I just didn't want to be a part of that. There's a lot of resistance because again, I'm trying to be, true to me, but then society is like, oh, you also need this and that, benefits, and you have to the rigid lifestyle. And I'm like, who is responsible for this structure? I always, questioned it. Also in my mid-20s, I listened to Shetty. At the time, Shetty was also doing like voiceover video podcasting, where he talked about his own personal, spiritual awakening. He's from the Indian culture, and his father clearly told him, it's like, you either be a doctor, an engineer, or a lawyer. Anything else after that is, a failure. And, he was trying, to find his own connection to the world. He became a monk for, I don't remember the exact amount of years, but he became a monk. He was trying to, find peace, like, and freedom, as most of us are navigating through. So it's another great recommendation. Shetty is really good. I recommend listening to him. And then I remember back in episode 1, Jennifer talked about a gray area in life, where I feel like the new generation, like Gen Z, I feel like a lot of Gen Zers are connecting more to their own personal paths. Many of them are, starting small businesses. And granted, we have social media now. Back then in the 90s, there was no such thing. Everybody was kind of just doing the structure of society. But now we have avenues, to explore the depths of our soul. And I'm so grateful for that, because we can now talk about these things. And that's another form of spiritual awakening. There's, there's so many layers. I could go on, but there's also, the healing process, finding your own peace, following the unknown. I remember back then when I first started my YouTube channel, how much I really wanted to talk about topics such as these, about society and reconstructing the way we do life, because I feel like we are here to have a human experience. We are here to experience things in a deeper sense. And I would hope that in the future, we have a more equitable society where many of us can enrich our lives with softness, with vulnerability, with, a community that is built upon love, light, and harmony. That those have been like my little snippets of spiritual awakening. And I'm glad to be, a part of this podcast. I'm glad to be exploring ways on how to be more presente.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Gisela. I think that was beautifully said. And I love how you tie it back into presente, because that is part of a big picture of spiritual awakening and our podcast. We want people to recognize that and walk in their purpose. And there's something you mentioned about that feeling of freedom, being free, and that is something very much part of being spiritually awakened and aligned into one's calling. Once again, usually you realize when you're when you're putting in the hours at work or whatever it is that you're doing, and it just seems like it drags, like it takes forever to get off your shift. But the
Oh my
moment you're
God.
actually doing something you enjoy, it's like, where did the time go? It just flew by, and maybe those are one of the ways you'll know if you're enjoying yourself. But it's just the irony on how it works, and realizing that spiritual awakening definitely is a form of liberation within yourself, and much fulfillment. I think now in my 30s, as I'm getting older, just being more aware of that, knowing that this is something that we've possessed and have had within ourselves all this time, and that is part of the secret. I also recommend that book. It is a book that very popular, The Secret, along with Alchemist, and there's a slew of others. And one thing that I also wanted to mention was we spoke about dreams, and if you want to look further into the meaning of your dreams, there's a book called 10,000 Dreams, and it helps you pretty much break down through explanation of what you may be dreaming. It just has so many things that you can identify with if you can recall your dreams when you wake up. Sometimes you don't know your dream instantaneously. They do say write it down, or whatever you dreamt of, write it down as soon as you can. But in this book, 10,000 Dreams Explained by Pamela Ball, she does give insight into what things mean, and that can actually then help you put together the pieces of why did I dream this, or did I just have this type of dream? So that definitely helps. It's helped me along the way as well, all for the purpose
Mhm.
of being spiritually awakened. As we continue to discuss spiritual awakening, I think one of the important things is really understanding why it happens. Just really recognizing and realizing it, that it's something within ourselves, mind, body, and soul, all of those beautiful elements just coming together and aligning for what is ultimately like your purpose, your calling. And I know that we can discuss about, what goes in our daily lives and how we go about each and every day. We started this topic with, are you living or just existing? And with spiritual awakening, it's really coming alive, waking up that giant within in all aspects of your life to fulfill whatever makes you happy, fulfill whatever's going to bring you at peace, whatever it is that you look forward to, in whatever, shape or form that may be. It is literally you, and that decision is yours. Whatever grand idea you have, it's whatever you can do to make it happen. And just knowing that it's literally stepping into your purpose, stepping into your calling. I think spiritual awakening is something many of us should just, come like recognize. It's a beautiful thing. Many times we're living life through just the ordinary, complaining, just in some kind of funk, and with spiritual awakening, it's just like a garden of flowers, like something you just, worthwhile, something worth looking forward to. And with the feeling, it's important to kind of recognize that the signs then come, because your feelings and the way of your thinking are really the vibrations you give off internally to then outwardly be able to recognize them, again, with the numbers, with the animals, and through tarot, through astrology, whatever it is, colors, whatever it is. It's really the vibrations within, and then the signs come about as sort of like that reassurance that's guiding your internal compass, just showing itself to you, revealing itself to you, so that you can recognize as of like, hey, you're in tune. Hey, the universe is listening. The universe is on it. That higher power is on it. All of those things together are really what allows you to have this beautiful thing we call spiritual awakening and living in your purpose. I hope this makes sense. If it doesn't, we are trying, or at least I am trying to give my best way of explaining this to you, because it is different from person to person, and no one
Mhm.
truly knows how you feel or what you're thinking. If you really pay attention to how you feel and what you're thinking, then the universe will bring it forward to you and reveal itself, just to give you a little nudge and reminding you, hey, it's all working out. It always does work out. It just sometimes takes longer than we want it to be. Anything you want
Mhm.
to say about that, Gisela, with some of the, like, why do we go through this?
I'll say a little bit. I believe soul awakenings happen because, somewhere in your personal journey, one loses alignment by living the cycle that no longer fits. And I'm talking about repeated cycles, where you wake up and you do your day-to-day routine, and it's the same thing, and then you just wake up one morning and you kind of want to break from that. It's higher levels of consciousness, and again, signs to be who you are meant to be who you are born to be before the world's really ever had an opinion. This is why when we go through this, it's like when you're a child, everything is so free. You wake up, you do as you would like, without any judgment and or anything of that nature. You just kind of wake up and you kind of just follow your day without it being so restrictive. So I think spiritual awakenings, again, it's like Jennifer was saying, it varies from person to person. It's important when it does happen because again, it's just redirection. It's realigning you back to, waking up without judgment from everybody, and, being who you are truly meant to be, and showing that outwardly to other people.
And recommended resources for you to further understand the meanings behind spiritual awakening. Thank you for tuning in to our segment on spiritual awakening. If you'd like to learn furthermore on this topic, here are some of the recommended resources we mentioned. Some books include 10,000 Dreams Explained by Pamela Ball, Eat, Pray, Love by Elizabeth Gilbert, The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho, Think Like Monk by Shetty, The Secret by Rhonda Byrne. Other YouTubers that you can look into as well for tarot reader, Vanessa Samaya and Chloe Taylor, and podcasts to listen to Jay Shetty on Purpose.